this is Jeannie. Welcome back. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Recently, I have been decluttering and destashing a lot of items in my craft room. That includes my stamps. I have significantly reduced the number of stamps that I own. And moving forward, I have decided that I will only purchase from certain brands and certain makers. One of my favorite brands, and he's also a maker, is Tim Holtz. I have a lot of Tim Holtz stamps, dies, embossing folders, stencils, and other product in my craft room. And I needed to figure out a way to organize what I have and make it make sense. I needed to create a system where I can quickly see what I have and then find it so that it doesn't eat or bite into my actual crafting time. I don't want to spend more time looking for product than I actually do crafting. That to me just doesn't make sense. And so I think I have a system that's going to work for me. I am going to create a Tim Holtz catalog so that I can quickly flip through that catalog when I'm trying to find inspiration for a crafty project, or if I'm trying to find a certain stamp that fits a certain aesthetic that a project has. What my husband suggested was that I stamp all of my stamps onto copy paper, and then I can take those images and organize them in a book. I can make a book because, babe, you like making books. It's another opportunity for you to make books. And he's right. I love making books. So that wasn't the issue for me. The issue for me was stamping all of those images. That just didn't sound like fun. It didn't sound like anything I wanted to do. So I decided to work smart instead of hard. Tim Holtz has a catalog. He has a catalog on his website, which I do believe is timholtz.com. And his catalog includes beautiful product photos for all of his product. What I did was I went through the website and I downloaded product photos for whatever product I have. I don't know if I'm technically allowed to do that, but Tim Holtz Police is not knocking on my door. I'm not selling these product photos. I'm not using them to sell anything. It's my own personal use. And now that I have all of these product photos printed, I need to put them in a book. In terms of the product photos themselves, I took the time to download them and print them in such a way that they were centered on my copy paper. And this is basic, simple copy paper, nothing crazy. They were centered on my copy paper and they were all relatively the same size. I tried to print them in a way that would be aesthetically pleasing and visually pleasing because I want my catalog to look pretty. So that's what I did. I do have an Epson Echo Tank printer, so I was able to do this. So I printed all of this, and it's a lot. So don't judge, because I have a lot of Tim Holtz, so don't judge. You probably have a lot of Tim Holtz too. He's just fantastic. So right now, I probably have about 95% of the Tim Holtz goodness that I own being represented here on all this printed paper. And I took the time to divide these into stamps, dies, embossing folders, and even within those categories, there's subcategories where they're seasonal, like Halloween and Christmas. That will make more sense once you see what I have decided to do in terms of creating the book for these. I thought I would create a book, another journal of sorts, and then I was reminded, again, while decluttering and destashing my craft room, that I have these fabulous folders. I think These were medical folders, or are medical folders because they still are. I purchased about 6 or 7 of them. It was a little bundle of them from either Savers or Goodwill during a thrift haul. And I probably shared them in one of my vintage thrifting episodes. So if you haven't seen those, be sure to check them out. I have a playlist. I will link it down below. But looking at these, I think this is fabulous. First of all, it's the perfect size for my copy paper. It's the perfect size for this folder system. And in this heavy duty folder, right, are these metal arms, and I do have the hole punch, so I can punch the proper holes for these metal arms. So that's not a big deal. I love that, right? And then I have within the folder, there are other folders that create kind of like categories. So I think this is going to work out well. I think it will, because I can have like stamps here, dies here, and then here I can have seasonal stamps and seasonal dies, and then here I can have embossing folders and stencils. What I need to do now is, now that I've decided to use this, is make this pretty, because it's practical in terms of, you know, what it is and how sturdy it is. And it also has this accordion spine, so it's definitely going to expand. There's room for growth. I love it. It's good in that way, but it's ugly. Aesthetically not very pleasing to the eye. So that's what I need to do. That's what I'm going to do. So I am going to decorate this before I punch holes in all of these pages and then organize them in the book. And hopefully by the end of this video, I will have my first Tim Holtz catalog. I might call it Tim Holtz Volume 1, because I know this collection is going to continue to grow. I just know, because, you know, it's Tim Holtz. So let me clear my table off, and then I will come back and share with you the paper and my thoughts on decorating this. I'm going to keep it super simple, but first I need to clear off my desk so that I have somewhere to work. I'll be back. Now that my table is cleared off, let me share with you the paper I am going to be using. I am going to use this DCWV collection. It's called Tattered Time Stack. And the minute I decided that this is what I wanted to do and this is what I wanted to use for this particular organization project, the minute I made that decision, this paper pad came to mind. It is not a Tim Holtz paper pad, but it has very much a Tim Holtz vibe, kind of like a Tim Holtz aesthetic with rulers, numbers, gears, grunge, the colors. Everything about this pad very much reminds me of Tim Holtz and what his vibe and aesthetic is. So I'm going to use this to cover up as much of this color, this hideous color, as I can, and just make this a much prettier folder. I might also cut some of this bottom edge off. It has, and I'm sure this probably has to do with the fact that these file folders in a medical office would probably be stored on a shelf like this way, and this part here would be sticking out with either the patient's name or some kind of information on it. That's why I think this lip is here, but I don't like this lip. So I think the first thing I need to do is probably trim that lip off, and then use these papers, trace a template of the front cover and the back cover onto these papers, cut things down to size, ink some edges, and then create kind of like a title for my catalog. I was thinking I would use these, I'm calling it a cut apart. It's not necessarily a cut apart, but that paper stack came with two 12 by 12 sheets of these tiles with alphabet, with letters on them. So I'm thinking between the two sheets I can probably spell out Tim Holtz. I'm thinking I can. We're going to see, because we're going to do it together. So I'll ink those and I'll put them on the front. And I think that'll be a good start. I'm going to try to keep it really simple, not do anything crazy, because I really want to get this done in one sitting. I pulled out the sheets that I thought worked well together and that, to me, best captured that whole Tim Holtz vibe. So for the front, I think I want to go with this. I want to go with this because I think these letters would pop quite nicely on this pattern. I thought this pattern here was a little too busy, and maybe I can use that for the back. So first things first, let's trace. Well, no, I think first thing first is get rid of the slips. So let me get my trimmer. I don't know that a trimmer is necessarily a good idea for this heavyweight material. Maybe what I'll do is get a straight edge and one of my blades. Here is my straight edge. I have this blade right here. I'm going to try to do this in such a way where I can mostly cut a straight edge on the bottom here. I'm going to use my cutting mat as a guide. I'm going to line up the spine of the folder along one of the lines, so I know that's pretty straight. All right. I'm going to make several passes instead of forcing the blade and trying to get it all in one pass. And that cut quite nicely. So now that edge is gone. Okay, so we have our folder cut to size. What I need to do next is trace these covers onto the paper and then cut that. So let me grab something as basic as a pencil. Is such a hard thing to find in my craft room. I don't know what I do with my pencils. All right, I got one here. Let's get that first sheet of paper. Now, even though I cut that lip or tab off that bottom edge, the front and back covers still don't line up. And that's obviously by design. The front cover is shorter than this back one. And I don't think I want to cut this down anymore. So I have a couple of options here. I can just cut this to the shape of the front cover and just live with the fact that it's, you know, front cover is going to be slightly smaller than the back. Or I can cut this paper in such a way that it covers the entire front cover plus makes up for that missing bottom edge on the front cover. I don't like that at all. So I think I'm just going to cut the paper to the shape of the front cover. I want to bring it, I definitely want to cover all of this ugliness here. And I want to cover up most of this paper or tape or whatever it is that's creating that accordion spine. Cover most of that because it's not the prettiest either. So I think something like that, leaving the tiniest of edges on the back will work. So let me trace that. I'm just going to make sure before I cut that this is correct, because once you cut, there's no going back. Yep, that looks correct. So I'm going to take my scissors. Well, I don't necessarily have to use my scissors, because I can't cut straight to save my life. I'm going to try to do most of the cutting with my trimmer. I think I can use my trimmer to cut off most of the paper and just round the corners wherever they need to be rounded. Yeah, that is so much better than me trying to cut that straight, because that wasn't going to happen, my friends. Was not going to happen. Okay. Okay, I got the perfect height. Very nice, very nice. Could probably do with cutting. No, I think it'll work. All right, and I'm going to, what I want to do too is ink this edge here and make it a little bit darker. So I'm going to grab my inky tool, a new fresh sponge for the end of my tool. I just cleaned those up too and got rid of a lot of the little sponges that were falling apart. I am using some ground espresso distress ink, and I'm wondering, actually, I don't think distress ink is a good idea because water can easily activate that. And if water or any kind of moisture should get on my folder, it's going to activate that ink in the worst way. So I'm going to switch. I'm going to use archival ink. Archival ink is permanent and not reactive to water or any kind of moisture or liquid. So I'm gonna do that. And I just want to change up the color a little bit so it's more brown and less reddish. I might even add some black. I think black would be nice. Ooh, I have some wax paste black. that might look pretty. So maybe I'll do that too before I glue things on. Oh yes, good decision. Look how pretty that looks now. I think that will work way better. And I think what I will do is do the same treatment to all of the edges. So in case I don't do, well, I was about to say, in case I don't do such a great job with the paper and some of this color ends up popping out. But if that happens, I can always go in and cover it up. So I'll save that step. Okay, so that looks infinitely better. I do need to, you see when I put this paper on here, do you see that because it has kind of like this little, it cuts in at the bottom, there's this extra little area here that's not going to be covered by the paper. Instead of stressing that, I think I'm just going to use a black Sharpie and color that in. That's what I'm going to do. And then when this paper is on top, it won't be so obvious. I'm going to add some extra. There we go. Perfect. To glue this on, I want some pretty strong adhesive. So, and I do want to use wet glue because the problem with double-sided tape is that the older the project you use that tape on becomes, the more likely that tape is going to fail and peel away from your project. I have some projects in my craft room right now from when I first started crafting way back when, that when I was looking at them again recently while I was decluttering my room, I noticed that any place I used double-sided tape, that tape was just old and wasn't sticking anymore. So I couldn't have that. The area here where I have that metal, I'm going to add some of my Beacon fabric tack. It says it bonds fabrics, lace, glass, leather, wood, and trims. I don't know. Does that include metal? We'll find out. I think I want to also put some on the edge here. That looks like it's stuck really, really well. What I will do once I'm done covering the entire folder is probably ink all of the edges so that you don't see the white of the paper. So that kind of kills the look a little bit. We'll save those little details, that cleanup for the end. I see it was a little bit long on the top. You can see that. So I'm going to trim some of that off now. Trying to use my scissors, but the angle of the cut is not really working, so I am going to grab that blade again and just carefully cut that edge, that tiniest of all white edges. Much easier. Perfect. That is the front cover. You have to do the same for the back cover. Always a good idea to have a blade handy when it comes to paper projects. Sometimes the cuts you have to make are just so detailed and just so fine that scissors just don't cut it. I think that looks great. This right here just won't do. You see how you see that bottom edge? So I think I'm going to have to do something here. I think I might just I could put a strip of something here, but I don't know that I necessarily like that idea. I do have this nice big piece of scrap. Cut off I can use down here. That wouldn't be too bad. Only thing I don't like is that it creates this like awkward pocket here. I mean, most of it will be covered. I think I'm going to have to line the inside of the back and front cover. Just because this color I'm not a fan of. I mean, but it's the inside of a book. Does it matter? I think it only matters down here. What I can do, all right, we're going to make this make sense. We're going to make it make sense. We like Tim Holtz because it's like very much an organic vibe. So we're going to intentionally make it look a little patchwork like here at the bottom. And that's just the way it's going to be. Let's measure this about where we're going to cut. We'll cut around there. Don't stress it, just do it. And if it turns out you don't like it, then you go back later and fix it. I'm not going to get stuck and overthink this. We'll put this at the bottom. It'll be fine. We can always come back later at some other time and just collage on the rest of the inside of the book if we don't like the way it looks. Hopefully I'm in frame. You can see what I'm doing. Yep. We will do that. Glue that on there and make it work. Yeah, doesn't look so bad. I can always come back and do some gesso on there if I really wanted to change that. And the good thing about this cataloging system is that the pages are not permanently attached to the file folder. It's going to be just the little metal arms, some holes at the top of the pages, And that is what is going to keep everything in the book, so I can always remove them to work inside of the book if that is something I want to do. So here's the front cover. Here is the back cover. That's the fix on the bottom here. Now I am going to ink all the edges with my black soot archival ink, and then I will probably go in with some of my Gilder's wax paste as well, because it's the Gilder's wax paste, especially the color black, is a very intense, rich, deep black, which is what I want. Oh, gotta be careful. I'm not wearing an apron, and I was pressing the wet edges against my shirt. This archival ink gets on my shirt, I'm done. And this is why I should have inked this edge of the paper before I adhered it to the front cover, because it's not so easy to ink, because it's not completely to the edge of the spine there. It's a little tiny bit of a setback there. Pretty. Do the same to the back. By setback, I mean it's it's set in from the edge. Not that I'm having some kind of a setback. That's hardly a setback. I keep bumping the camera. I apologize. My eye keeps being drawn to this paper here because it is slightly lighter in color than the paper on the cover. So I'm going to try to dial that back a little bit. I mean, the whole point of this little strip here at the bottom is to kind of mask the fact that the covers, the front and back covers, are not exactly the same in size. And the last thing I want is for my eye to be drawn to that fact, as opposed to that fact being disguised. Let's see now. Have some of this black Gilder's paste, wax paste on my finger, and I'm just slightly, very lightly brushing along the paper. Better. Okay, so I think we have the back and front cover done. I think now it's just a matter of cutting those tiles apart. And spelling out Tim Holtz. So let's see, let's start with, hopefully we have enough letters. Let's see. Okay, my friends, my goal was to finish this organization project in one video, but unfortunately I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. I'm at a good spot to stop. It's late and I do have work tomorrow, so I think I'm going to call this a stop for now. Good progress was made. Here is the front cover. I'm not going to move it around too much because things are still very much wet. The paper I used on the front cover, the gears have a bit of a glossy finish to them to just help them pop. It's part of the design of the paper, but because they have that gloss, I decided to use my fabric tack to glue these letters on to just hopefully better the odds that they won't fall off. And then I had one of these deco frames. This is a Tim Holtz deco frame, and this is a Tim Holtz quote chip. This one is from Collection Core Labels that I recently purchased. I thought it just fit quite nicely with the book, and it reads, "What seems like the ordinary is often the extraordinary." I think that's going to go well with the contents of this book. So this is the front. Oh boy, I might live to regret this, but whoopee, there's the back. And next time I see you, my friends, I am going to continue with a few more finishing touches on the cover, and maybe at that point I will have a decision as to what I want to do with this. I'm still not sure how I feel about this. I keep telling myself I'm okay with it, but I'm not sure that I'm convinced of that, but I'll sleep on it. We'll see. And then I will put my pages in the book and call it done. So let me know what you think, my friends. And again, if you have an organization system for your stamps, I would love to hear about it. But that is all for now, my friends. Thank you so much for watching. I truly do appreciate you, and I will catch you all in my next video. Until next time, my friends. Bye-bye.